The coffee cup trembled in Emma's hand as Derek's fingers closed around her wrist like a vice. "I found you," he said, his voice low and poisonous. "Did you really think you could run from me? That I wouldn't track you down, eventually?" Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. 6 months. She'd been free for 6 glorious months, building a new life in this quiet neighborhood 3 states away from the hell she'd escaped. And now Derek stood in front of her in the middle of Riverside Park, his expensive suit and practiced smile hiding the monster underneath. "Let go of me," she whispered, trying to pull away. His grip tightened until her bones ground together. "We're going home, Emma. You've had your little adventure, made your point, but you're still my wife, and you're coming back where you belong." "Ex-wife," she corrected, her voice shaking. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. His laugh was cold. "A piece of paper doesn't change what you are, what we are. You think you can just leave? Start over? I've spent 6 months tracking you down, sweetheart. 6 months watching you play house in this pathetic little town. It ends now." Emma's vision blurred with tears of rage and fear. She'd been so careful. Changed her name, paid cash for everything, deleted every social media account. How had he found her? "I'm not going anywhere with you," she said, louder now. An elderly couple walking past glanced over curiously. Derek's smile widened, but his eyes turned to ice. "Don't make a scene," he hissed. "You know what happens when you embarrass me in public." She knew. God, she knew. The bruises had taken weeks to fade last time. "Sir, I think the lady asked you to let go." The voice came from behind her, deep and calm, carrying an edge of authority that made Derek's head snap up. Emma turned to see a man sitting on the park bench just a few feet away. She hadn't even noticed him there, which seemed impossible now that she saw him. He was striking in a way that made her breath catch. Dark hair, sharp jawline, wearing an immaculate charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. But it was his eyes that held her attention. Ice blue and utterly unreadable, they studied Derek with the kind of cold assessment that made her think of a predator sizing up prey. Derek's expression shifted through several emotions: confusion, irritation, then condescension. "This is a private conversation. Move along." The man didn't move. He simply continued sitting there, one arm draped casually over the back of the bench, looking completely relaxed except for those calculating eyes. "It doesn't look very private," he observed, "and it doesn't look very much like a conversation either. Looks more like assault to me." Derek's face flushed red. "Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are. Adrian Wolfe." The man said his name like it should mean something. Derek's eyes narrowed, clearly running the name through his mental database, coming up empty. "Well, Adrian, this is between me and my wife. So unless you want trouble, I suggest you—" "Ex-wife," Emma interrupted, finding courage in this stranger's unexpected intervention. "And I already told you to let go." Adrian Wolfe stood up from the bench in one fluid motion, and Emma realized he was taller than Derek by several inches. There was something about the way he moved, controlled, purposeful, like every gesture was measured and deliberate. "You heard the lady," Adrian said softly. "Let go." For a moment Derek held on, his jaw clenched in fury. Then something in Adrian's expression made him release Emma's wrist. She stumbled back, cradling her arm. "This isn't over," Derek told her, ignoring Adrian now. "You can't hide from me. I'll be back, and next time your boyfriend here won't be around to play hero." "He's not my—" Emma started, but Adrian stepped smoothly between them. "Yes," he said, his voice dropping to something darker, something that made the hair on Emma's neck stand up. "I will be." Derek laughed, but it sounded forced. What's that supposed to mean? Adrian reached into his jacket pocket, and Emma saw Derek tense, his hand moving toward his own pocket. But Adrian simply pulled out a business card and held it between 2 fingers. "It means that if you come near her again, if you so much as breathe in her direction, you'll be dealing with me, and I promise you, Mr. Shaw, you don't want that." Emma's stomach dropped. He knew Derek's name. How did he know Derek's name? Derek snatched the card, glanced at it, and went pale. actually pale. Emma had seen Derek face down corporate rivals, intimidate employees, stare down cops who'd responded to neighbors' calls. She'd never seen him look afraid. "You're," Derek started. "Yes," Adrian said simply, "and you're leaving. Now." Derek looked at Emma, then at Adrian, then back at the card in his hand. She could see him calculating, weighing options, trying to salvage his pride. Finally, he jabbed a finger at Emma. "This isn't over," he repeated, but his voice lacked conviction now. He turned and walked away, his stride just a little too quick to be casual. Emma's knees buckled. She would have fallen if Adrian hadn't caught her elbow, steadying her with surprising gentleness. "Sit," he said, guiding her to the bench. She sank onto it, her whole body shaking with adrenaline and relief and confusion. "How did you—" she started, but her voice cracked. "How did you know his name?" Adrian sat beside her, maintaining a careful distance. "Derek Shaw, managing partner at Shaw & Associates. Divorced 2 months ago from Emma Shaw, now Emma Mitchell. Restraining order filed, but not pursued due to the plaintiff relocating to avoid conflict." Emma's blood ran cold. "You investigated me?" "I investigated him," Adrian corrected. "The moment I saw him grab you, one phone call." "One phone call." Emma laughed, but it came out choked. "Who are you?" Adrian tilted his head, studying her with those unsettling blue eyes. "I already told you. Adrian Wolfe." "That doesn't answer my question, doesn't it?" He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed her the screen. Emma stared at the search results. Adrian Wolfe, CEO of Wolfe Industries. Net worth estimated at over $2 billion. And then, in smaller articles, the whispers, the rumors, connections to organized crime, investigations that went nowhere, prosecutors who suddenly dropped cases. The word Mafia appeared multiple times, though never in any official capacity. Her hands started shaking again. She'd run from one dangerous man straight into the orbit of another. "I should go," she whispered, standing up too fast. Dizziness washed over her. "Sit down before you fall down," Adrian said, his voice gentle but firm. When she hesitated, he added, "Please." Something about that "please" made her obey. She sat. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "I don't hurt women. I don't hurt people who don't deserve it. And my ex-husband deserves it. Your ex-husband puts his hands on women. Yes, he deserves it." Emma closed her eyes. "I don't need another controlling man in my life. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to help you." "Why?" She opened her eyes, turning to face him fully. "You don't know me. Why would you help me?" For the first time, Adrian's expression softened slightly. "Let's just say I have a particular hatred for men who use their power to hurt those weaker than them." "I'm not weak," Emma said sharply. "No," Adrian agreed, something like approval in his eyes. "You're not. You left him. You built a new life. That takes strength most people don't have. But strength doesn't mean you have to face everything alone. I've been alone for 6 months. I've been fine. Until today." Emma had no answer for that. She looked down at her wrist, already showing the red marks where Derek had grabbed her. They'd be bruises tomorrow. "He's not going to stop," she said quietly. "He'll come back. He always comes back." "Not this time." "You can't know that. You can't protect me 24 hours a day." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "Actually, I can." Emma laughed bitterly. "What, you're going to assign me a bodyguard? I can barely afford my apartment, Mr. Wolfe. I can't pay for protection." "I'm not asking you to pay." He shifted on the bench, turning to face her more directly. "I'm asking you to trust me." "Trust you." Emma shook her head. "I don't even know you." "Then get to know me." Adrian pulled another card from his pocket, different from the one he'd given Derek. This one was simpler. just a phone number in elegant script. Have dinner with me, tonight. Let me explain what I can do to help. This is insane. Probably, he agreed. But your ex-husband knows where you live now. He knows where you work. At her startled look, he nodded. The coffee shop on Main Street. You work the morning shift, Tuesday through Saturday. He's been watching you, Emma? For how long, I don't know. But he has. Terror crawled up her spine. How do you know all this? Because in the 10 minutes we've been sitting here, my people have been doing their job. And what they've found suggests Derek Shaw has been in town for at least 2 weeks, staying at the Riverside Hotel, following your routine. Emma felt sick. 2 weeks. At least. I should call the police. And tell them what? That your ex-husband was in a public park? That he grabbed your wrist? They'll file a report. Maybe. And then what happens when he comes to your apartment tonight? When he corners you in the parking lot at work tomorrow? How long do you think it'll take the police to arrive? Emma stood up again, pacing a few steps away. So what are you suggesting? That I just... what? Trust some stranger who admits he's connected to organized crime? I'm suggesting you let me level the playing field. Adrian stood as well, but he didn't approach her. Your ex-husband has money, connections, and no conscience. You need someone who can match that. And what do you get out of this? Emma turned to face him, crossing her arms. Nobody helps anyone for free, especially not men like you. Something flickered in Adrian's eyes, surprise, maybe, or respect. Smart question. The truth? I get the satisfaction of putting a bully in his place. I get to sleep at night, knowing I helped someone who needed it. And, he paused, a slight smile touching his lips, I get to have dinner with a woman brave enough to question me. You're unbelievable. I've been called worse. The smile faded. Emma, I know you have no reason to trust me. I know everything about this situation screams danger. But I'm asking you to consider which danger is worse. The devil you know, or the devil who's offering to help. Emma wanted to tell him no. Wanted to walk away from both Derek and Adrian Wolfe. Wanted to pack up and run again. Keep running until she found somewhere neither of them could reach. But she was so tired of running. And Adrian was right. Derek knew where she was now. Running wouldn't work a second time. Just dinner? She asked quietly. Just dinner. A conversation. And if you decide you don't want my help after that, I'll respect your decision. Somehow I doubt that. Adrian's smile returned, warmer this time. Have dinner with me and find out. Emma looked at the card in her hand, then at Adrian. Then at the path Derek had taken when he left. She thought about her apartment, about going home alone tonight knowing Derek could be watching. Thought about looking over her shoulder every second, jumping at every sound. Fine, she said. One dinner, but somewhere public. Of course. Do you like Italian? Who doesn't? Perfect. There's a place on Oak Street. Marcello's. 7 o'clock? Emma nodded slowly. Okay. I'll pick you up. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. I'll meet you there. Adrian studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough. I'll see you at 7. He turned to leave, then paused. Emma, change your locks. Today. And don't go anywhere alone if you can help it. Then he was gone, walking away with that same controlled grace, sliding into a black town car that Emma hadn't noticed parked at the curb. She watched it drive away, her mind spinning. What had she just agreed to? Marcello's was exactly the kind of restaurant Emma expected a billionaire to frequent. White tablecloths, soft lighting, waiters who moved like dancers. She felt underdressed in her simple blue dress, even though it was the nicest thing she owned. Adrian was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table that somehow felt both intimate and secure. He stood when he saw her, and Emma noticed other diners glancing over, though whether they recognized him or were simply drawn by his presence, she couldn't tell. You came, he said, pulling out her chair. I said I would. People don't always do what they say. Emma sat, accepting the menu from a hovering waiter. Yeah, well, I try to keep my word. They ordered Emma chose the safest thing on the menu, pasta carbonara, while Adrian ordered in what sounded like fluent Italian. When the waiter left, silence fell between them. "So," Emma said finally, "are you going to tell me what you really want?" Adrian leaned back in his chair, regarding her steadily. "Direct. I like that. I've spent too many years dancing around the truth with Derek. I'm done with games." "Fair enough." Adrian folded his hands on the table. "What I told you in the park was true. I want to help you, but you're right to be suspicious, so let me give you the full picture." He paused as the waiter returned with wine, an expensive red that Emma was sure cost more than her weekly grocery budget. Once they were alone again, Adrian continued. "I built my business on knowing things other people don't. Information is power, and I make it my business to have both. When I see someone like Derek Shaw, someone who thinks he's untouchable because he has money and connections, it offends me on a fundamental level." "Because you're the same type of person?" Adrian's smile was sharp. "No, because I know what real power looks like, and it's not terrorizing women half your size. Real power is knowing when to use force and when restraint is stronger. Your ex-husband is a small man playing a big man's game. And you want to, what, teach him a lesson? I want to eliminate him as a threat to you." "Eliminate," Emma repeated. "That's an interesting choice of words." "I'm not going to have him killed, if that's what you're implying," Adrian said dryly. "Despite what you may have read online, I'm not actually in the habit of murdering people. But you could." "Hypothetically, yes. In reality, it's much more effective to destroy someone financially, professionally, and socially. Leave them alive, but powerless." Emma's wineglass paused halfway to her lips. "You're serious?" "Completely. Derek Shaw's law firm has several clients who would be very interested to know about certain irregularities in their accounts. His partners would be fascinated to learn about his creative bookkeeping, and I'm sure the State Bar Association would love to review some of his more questionable cases." "You found all this today? I told you, information is what I do." Adrian took a sip of his wine. "But I won't do any of it without your permission." "Why not? If he's done all these illegal things, why do you need my permission to expose him?" "Because this is your life, Emma. Your fight. I'm offering you weapons, but you get to decide if and how to use them." The waiter arrived with their food, and Emma was grateful for the interruption. She needed a moment to process what Adrian was offering. It was tempting. God, it was tempting. The thought of Derek finally facing consequences for all the years of control and cruelty made her heart race. But there was a catch. There was always a catch. "What do you want in return?" she asked quietly. Adrian cut into his veal, taking his time answering. "What do you think I want?" "I don't know. That's why I'm asking." "What would you say if I told you I wanted nothing?" "I'd say you were lying." That earned her a genuine laugh, warm and unexpected. "Smart woman. All right. Here's the truth. I want you to trust me. I want you to feel safe, and selfishly, I want to spend more time with you." Emma's fork clattered against her plate. "What? You heard me. You want to, what, date me? You don't even know me. Then let's change that." Adrian leaned forward slightly. "I'm not proposing marriage, Emma. I'm asking if you'd like to have dinner again, maybe go to a museum, take a walk, normal things." "Nothing about this is normal." "Maybe not, but it could be." Emma shook her head, trying to wrap her mind around this bizarre turn. "You're a billionaire with connections to organized crime. I'm a waitress who pours coffee for a living. What could you possibly want with me? You're also a woman who had the courage to leave an abusive marriage, rebuild her life from nothing, and stand up to her abuser in a public park. You questioned me instead of just accepting my help. You demanded to meet me in public instead of letting me pick you up. You're smart, brave, and you don't take anyone's word at face value." Adrian smiled. "I find all of that incredibly attractive." Heat crept into Emma's cheeks. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had complimented her character instead of her appearance. "I'm a mess," she said quietly. I have nightmares, trust issues. I jump at loud noises and flinch when people move too fast. You don't want that. I want you to feel safe enough that those things stop, Adrian said simply. And if they don't, I want you to know that none of it makes you less worthwhile. Emma's throat tightened. She looked down at her plate, blinking rapidly. Hey, Adrian's voice was soft. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You didn't. She took a shaky breath. I'm not used to people being kind without wanting something. I do want something, Adrian reminded her. I want another date, but only if you want that too. Did she? Emma hardly knew. Part of her wanted to run screaming from this restaurant, from this man who was too rich, too powerful, too everything. But another part, the part that had been lonely for so long, the part that craved safety and protection, wanted to say yes. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something, then showed her the screen. I had my people send over everything they found on Derek. It's all in this secure folder. The password is your birthday. Emma stared at the phone. How do you know my birthday? I know a lot of things. At her alarmed look, he added, Public records, Emma. Your divorce filing. I'm not hacking into your life. Just casually researching me. I prefer to know who I'm dealing with. Emma took out her own phone, accessing the folder. Inside were dozens of documents, financial records, emails, witness statements. It was damning. All of it was completely damning. This is enough to disbar him, she whispered. Yes. And you're just giving this to me? It's yours to do with as you wish. File a police report, send it to the Bar Association, or delete it and forget you ever saw it. Your choice. Emma closed the folder, her hands trembling slightly. The power of it was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. They finished dinner making small talk, safer topics like favorite books and movies. Emma learned that Adrian had grown up in Brooklyn, built his first company at 23, and had a weakness for old black and white films. He learned that Emma loved historical fiction, missed playing piano, and dreamed of opening a bookstore someday. It was almost normal, almost like a regular date. Until they left the restaurant and found Derek waiting by Emma's car. Emma froze, her car keys digging into her palm. Derek was leaning against her driver's door, arms crossed, wearing the same expensive suit, but his expression was different from the park. Uglier, desperate. I told you this wasn't over, he said. Adrian stepped smoothly in front of Emma, his body language shifting in an instant from relaxed to dangerous. And I told you what would happen if you came near her again? You think you scare me? Derek pushed off the car, standing straighter. I did some research too. Yeah, you've got money. Yeah, you've got connections. But you're not untouchable. Neither is she. That sounded like a threat, Adrian said, his voice dropping to something arctic. It's a promise. She's my wife. Ex-wife, Emma said, finding her voice. She stepped out from behind Adrian even though every instinct screamed at her to hide. I'm not your wife, I'm not your property, and I'm done being afraid of you. Derek's laugh was cruel. Brave words when you're hiding behind your boyfriend. But he won't always be there, Emma. And when he's not, then my people will be, Adrian interrupted. Did you notice the two men who've been following you since you left your hotel? Or the tracker we placed on your car? Every move you've made today has been monitored, Shaw. Every single one. Derek's face went white, then red. You're bluffing. Adrian pulled out his phone, pulled up what looked like a tracking app, and turned the screen toward Derek. You had lunch at Romano's, chicken parmesan. You made 3 phone calls, 2 to your office, 1 to a number registered to your brother in Seattle. You drove here and parked in the public lot on 5th Street. You've been standing by this car for 17 minutes. He pocketed the phone. Still think I'm bluffing? Emma watched Derek process this, saw the exact moment he realized he was out of his depth, but instead of backing down, his expression twisted into something vicious. You think you've won? He looked at Emma. You think running to some criminal makes you safe? He's worse than I ever was, Emma. At least I never pretended to be anything but what I am." "You pretended to love me," Emma said quietly. "And that was the worst lie of all." Something in Derek seemed to crack. "I did love you. I do love you. You're the one who gave up. You're the one who ran instead of working on our marriage." "You hit me," Emma said, her voice shaking but firm. "You controlled every aspect of my life. You isolated me from my friends and family. That's not love, Derek. That's ownership. I gave you everything. You gave me bruises and nightmares and years of my life I'll never get back." Emma felt tears on her cheeks, but didn't wipe them away. "And I'm done. I'm done with you, done being afraid, done letting you have any power over me." "Fine," Derek spat. "Keep the gangster. See how that works out for you. But when he shows his true colors, when he hurts you the way men like him always hurt women, don't come crying to me." He turned and stalked away. This time, Emma noticed what Adrian had mentioned, 2 large men in dark suits, following Derek at a discreet distance. She started shaking. Adrian's hand touched her elbow gently. "Let's get you home." "I can drive." "You're trembling. Let me drive you. Someone will bring your car by tomorrow." Emma wanted to argue, but she was suddenly exhausted. She nodded. Adrian's car was warm and quiet, leather seats that probably cost more than her entire apartment. She gave him her address and leaned her head against the window, watching the city lights blur past. "I'm sorry," Adrian said quietly. "For what?" "For him ruining our evening. For you having to deal with that." "It's not your fault." "No, but I wish I could have prevented it." Emma turned to look at him. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why do you really care? The truth this time." Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his hands steady on the wheel. "My mother," he said finally. "She was with a man like Derek. For years. He'd hit her, then apologize. Control her, then buy her gifts. The cycle repeated so many times I lost count. What happened to her? She died when I was 15. Fell down the stairs, the official report said. But I was there. I saw him push her." Emma's breath caught. "Adrian," he was acquitted. Self-defense, they ruled. She'd been coming at him with a knife, he claimed. Never mind that she was 90 pounds and terrified. Never mind the years of hospital visits and police calls. He walked free. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's when I learned that justice isn't about what's right. It's about power. And I swore I'd never let anyone with power use it to hurt people who couldn't fight back. Is that why you do what you do? The business, the connections, all of it? Partly. I built an empire so I'd never be powerless again. So I could protect people who needed it. He glanced at her. People like you. Emma didn't know what to say. They drove in silence until Adrian pulled up in front of her apartment building, a modest brick structure in a quiet neighborhood. "Thank you," she said, "for dinner, for the information, for everything." "Emma." Adrian caught her hand gently before she could open the door. "That second date, can I call you?" She looked down at their joined hands. His grip was warm, but not tight, holding without constraining. Nothing like Derek. "Yes," she heard herself say. "You can call me." Adrian smiled, and it transformed his face completely. "Good. Now go inside, lock your door, and call me if anything at all, feels wrong." Emma nodded and slipped out of the car. She could feel him watching as she climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment. Didn't hear his car pull away until her door was closed and locked behind her. She leaned against it, her heart racing for entirely different reasons now. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Sleep well, you're safe." How he'd gotten her number. She didn't want to know. But against all logic, against every warning bell in her head, his message made her feel exactly what he'd promised. Safe. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur that felt like a dream. Adrian called the next day just to check on her. Then the day after. Then it became a routine. Morning texts, evening calls, and dates sprinkled throughout. They went to museums, walked through parks, had quiet dinners at hole-in-the-wall restaurants Adrian somehow knew about. He never pushed, never rushed, always asked before touching her. And Emma found herself opening up in ways she hadn't in years. She told him about growing up in Ohio, about her mother who'd died of cancer when Emma was 12, about her father who'd remarried and started a new family that didn't quite have room for her, about meeting Derek in college and thinking he was her chance at having a family again. Adrian told her about building his business, about the gray areas he'd operated in, about the people he'd helped and the enemies he'd made. He was honest about who he was. Not a good man, he said, but a man who tried to do good when he could. Derek didn't come back. The tracking app on Adrian's phone showed him returning to his home state, and the restraining order Emma finally filed with Adrian's encouragement was served without incident. The evidence Adrian had gathered made its way, anonymously, to the State Bar Association. An investigation was launched. Derek's law firm quietly asked him to take a leave of absence, and Emma started to believe she might actually be free. She was closing the coffee shop one evening, humming to herself as she counted the till, when she heard the door chime. She looked up with an apology ready. They were closed, but the words died in her throat. 3 men stood in the doorway. Large, rough-looking, wearing expressions that made her blood run cold. "Emma Mitchell," the one in front said. She thought about lying, but something in his eyes told her he already knew the answer. "Yes?" "Someone wants to talk to you. You're gonna come with us." Emma's hand moved toward her phone. The man shook his head. "Don't. Won't do you any good anyway." Her mind raced. Adrian had given her an emergency number, told her to call it if she ever felt threatened. But her phone was in her purse, behind the counter, and these men were between her and the door. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she said, proud of how steady her voice came out. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, you are. Easy way or hard way, but you're coming." The 2 men behind him spread out, moving to flank the counter. Emma looked around desperately for a weapon, an escape route, anything. "Adrian won't let you get away with this," she said. That made the man laugh. "Adrian Wolfe? Lady, he's exactly who sent us." Emma's world tilted. "What?" "Said he needs to see you. Important business. So you're gonna come have a conversation." "If Adrian wanted to see me, he'd call. Not for this kind of conversation." The man gestured impatiently. "Look, we can do this nice, or we can do it rough. Your choice. But we got orders, and we're not leaving without you." Emma's mind spun. Every instinct screamed this was wrong, but doubt crept in. Adrian had been honest about his business, about the kind of man he was. What if this really was how he operated? What if the kindness had been an act, and now she was seeing the truth? "I want to call him first," she said. "No calls. Come on." One of the flanking men moved behind the counter. Emma backed up against the wall, her heart hammering. "Don't touch me," she warned. "Then walk." The leader jerked his head toward the door. "Now." Emma weighed her options. Scream? The street outside was mostly empty at this hour. Fight? She'd never win against 3 men this size. Run? To where? She walked. They led her to a black SUV with tinted windows. Emma's whole body screamed at her not to get in, but the alternative seemed to be getting dragged in, and she wanted to preserve what dignity and control she had left. The drive took 20 minutes, winding through industrial areas Emma didn't recognize. Finally, they pulled up to a warehouse, because of course it was a warehouse, Emma thought hysterically. Inside, the space was mostly empty, except for some crates and a single chair sitting under a hanging light. "Sit," the leader said. Emma sat, her hands gripping the chair arms to hide their shaking. The 3 men took up positions around her, waiting. Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Emma's head snapped up, expecting Adrian, dreading Adrian. But it was Derek who emerged from the shadows. "Hello, Emma," he said with a smile that made her stomach turn. "Surprised to see me?" Emma's mind reeled. You, me. Derek gestured at the three men. Did you really think I didn't have resources of my own? That I'd just slink away because some gangster told me to? The leader, Derek's man, not Adrian's, grinned. She bought it. Totally bought it. Of course she did. Emma's always been gullible. Derek crouched in front of her chair, his face level with hers. Did you really think Adrian Wolfe cared about you? That a man like him would waste his time on a nobody waitress? He's going to come looking for me, Emma said, hating how her voice shook. No, he won't. Because right now he's getting an anonymous tip that you've been working with the FBI, feeding them information about his business. By the time he figures out the truth, if he ever does, you'll be long gone. Terror flooded through her. Where are you taking me? Does it matter? Somewhere far away. Somewhere you can't run from me again. Derek stood, looking down at her with satisfaction. I told you this wasn't over. I told you I'd find you. Did you think I was bluffing? Adrian will know you're lying. Will he? You're so sure he trusts you? You've known him 3 weeks, Emma. I had investigators watch you too. You think what you have is real? It's nothing. A distraction. He'll forget about you in a week. Emma wanted to argue, but doubt gnawed at her. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe she'd been a fool to trust Adrian so quickly, to believe someone like him could actually care about someone like her. Nothing to say? Derek taunted. No clever retorts? No brave speeches? Let me go, she whispered. Never. Derek leaned close. You're mine, Emma. You've always been mine. And once we're somewhere new, somewhere no one knows us, we can start over. I'll forgive you for this little adventure, and we can go back to the way things were. I'd rather die. Derek's hand cracked across her face before she saw it coming. The force of it knocked her sideways in the chair, and only the leader's hand on the back kept her from falling. You'll learn respect again, Derek said coldly, even if I have to beat it into you. Emma tasted blood. Her vision swam. But through the pain and fear, rage was building. She'd escaped once. She'd built a new life. She'd found someone who made her feel human again. And Derek thought he could just take it all away? No, she said. What? Emma lifted her head, looking Derek straight in the eye despite the throbbing in her jaw. No, I won't go with you. I won't be yours. I won't let you control me ever again. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Emma stood even though the men moved to stop her. You can drag me out of here. You can hurt me. But you can't make me submit. You can't make me stop fighting. And eventually, someone's going to notice I'm missing. The coffee shop, my landlord, Adrian. Adrian doesn't care. You keep saying that, but you're wrong. Emma felt strength flowing back into her voice. Because if he didn't care, you wouldn't have had to lie to get me here. You'd have just taken me. You're afraid of him, Derek. You're terrified of what he'll do when he finds out what you've done. Derek's face flushed red. Shut up. Why did you really leave town? Was it the bar investigation? Or was it because Adrian told you to, and you knew what would happen if you didn't listen? I said shut up! Derek grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise. The warehouse door exploded inward. Men poured through, 10, 15, more than Emma could count. They moved with military precision, weapons drawn, surrounding Derek's men before anyone could react. And through the chaos walked Adrian, his expression colder than Emma had ever seen it. Let her go, he said quietly. Derek's hand tightened on Emma's arm for a moment, then released. He stepped back, hands raised in a gesture of innocence. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Adrian moved closer, and his men parted to let him through. Because it looks like you kidnapped Emma, assaulted her, and threatened to abduct her across state lines. But please, explain what it actually is. She came willingly. My men were watching her from the moment you entered the coffee shop, Adrian interrupted. We have video of the entire incident. We have audio of every word you've said in this warehouse. So please, Derek, tell me again how this isn't what it looks like. Derek's face cycled through emotions. Fear, rage, desperation. Finally, he lunged at Emma. He didn't make it 3 steps. 2 of Adrian's men caught him, forcing him to his knees. Adrian walked past him without a glance, going straight to Emma. His hand touched her face gently where Derek had hit her, and his expression went absolutely arctic. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" he asked softly. Emma shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Good." Adrian shrugged off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. Then he turned to Derek, still held on his knees by Adrian's men. "You made a mistake," Adrian said conversationally. "Several, actually. You came back when I told you not to. You fabricated evidence to try to turn me against Emma. And worst of all, you put your hands on her. Again." "You can't touch me," Derek said, trying for bravado despite his position. "I have lawyers, connections. One call and... One call?" Adrian pulled out his phone, pulled up something, and showed it to Derek. "Like the call your lawyer made an hour ago, informing you that your firm is terminating your partnership? Or maybe the call from the state bar, letting you know your license has been suspended pending investigation? Or perhaps the call from your bank, questioning the irregularities in your accounts?" Derek went pale. "Here's what's going to happen," Adrian continued. "You're going to be arrested for kidnapping, assault, and a list of other charges my lawyers are currently compiling. You're going to go to prison. And when you get out, if you get out, you're going to disappear. Because if I ever see you near Emma again, if I even hear that you've looked in her direction, what I've done to your career will look like a mercy compared to what I'll do to you personally. You can't. I can. I will. Test me and find out." Adrian gestured to his men. "Get him out of my sight." They dragged Derek away, his protests fading as they took him outside. Emma heard sirens in the distance. Police, coming to make the arrest official. Then it was just her and Adrian in the warehouse, surrounded by his men, but somehow feeling alone. "How did you find me?" Emma asked. "You're wearing a necklace I gave you." Adrian gestured to the delicate silver chain he'd presented at their last dinner. "There's a tracker in the pendant. I told you then it was there, told you it was for your safety. You agreed to wear it." Emma vaguely remembered that conversation, too dazed by the gift to fully process his words. "You were tracking me the whole time?" "Only for situations exactly like this." Adrian's expression softened. "I'm sorry. I should have anticipated Derek would try something like this. Should have had someone with you. You can't be with me every second." "I should have been tonight." Emma touched her jaw, wincing. "Derek said you'd believe I was working with the FBI. That you'd think I betrayed you. I know you better than that. You've known me 3 weeks. Long enough." Adrian stepped closer, his hands hovering near her shoulders, but not touching. "Long enough to know you're loyal, honest, brave beyond reason. Long enough to know I'd never believe Derek Shaw over you. He said what we have isn't real, that you'd forget about me. Look at me." Adrian waited until she met his eyes. "Does this look like nothing to you? I have 15 men here. I have video surveillance, phone taps, and tracking on Derek and everyone associated with him. I've spent 3 weeks making sure you're safe, that he can't touch you, that you have everything you need. If that's nothing, I'd like to know what you'd consider something." Emma felt tears building. "I was so scared." "I know. I'm sorry." This time Adrian did touch her, pulling her carefully into his arms. "I'm so sorry, Emma. But it's over now. He's going to prison. He can't hurt you anymore." She let herself collapse against his chest, let herself cry for the first time since Derek had grabbed her in the park, let herself feel all the fear and rage and relief she'd been holding back. Adrian held her through it all, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring reassurances in a voice gone gentle. When she finally pulled back, wiping her eyes, she found him looking at her with an expression that made her breath catch. "What?" she asked. "I'm trying to figure out how to ask you something without scaring you off. After tonight, I don't think anything could scare me." Adrian smiled slightly. "Don't tempt fate." He took her hands in his. Emma, I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other a short time, but I need you to understand something. What I feel for you isn't casual. It isn't temporary. When Derek took you tonight, when I thought I might lose you, I realized something. What? I love you. Emma's heart stopped. Adrian, you don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same way. But I needed you to know. I love you, Emma Mitchell. And if you'll let me, I want to spend every day proving it to you. Emma stared at him. This man who'd turned her life upside down, who'd given her safety and protection, and something she'd thought she'd never have again. Hope. I don't know if I can love you back, she said honestly. Not yet. Derek broke something in me, and I'm still putting the pieces back together. I know. But I want to try. I want to see where this goes. She took a shaky breath. I want to be brave enough to take this chance. Adrian's smile was like sunrise. That's all I'm asking. He leaned down slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, his lips touched hers in a kiss so gentle it made her ache. It was nothing like the aggressive, claiming kisses Derek had forced on her. This was a question, an offering, a promise. Emma kissed him back, pouring 3 weeks of growing feelings into it, and felt something shift and settle inside her. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Come home with me tonight. Not just to sleep. I don't want you alone after this. Okay. Okay? Okay, Emma repeated, meaning it. Adrian called for his car, and they left the warehouse together. Emma didn't look back. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of a small storefront on Main Street, staring at the keys in her hand. You're sure about this? Adrian asked from beside her. I'm sure. Emma looked up at the sign above the door. Mitchell's Books. It's what I've always wanted. Then let's make it official. Adrian took the keys, unlocked the door, and held it open with a courtly gesture. Emma walked into her bookstore, and felt joy bubble up inside her. The space was perfect. Cozy, with exposed brick walls, comfortable reading nooks, and shelves waiting to be filled. I can't believe you did all this, she said, spinning to face Adrian. You picked everything out. I just paid for it. You did more than that. Emma gestured around. The location, the negotiations with the landlord, helping me get approved for the business license. You made this happen. We made it happen, Adrian corrected. You had the dream. I just helped make it real. Emma crossed to him, standing on her toes to kiss him. 6 months together, and it still gave her butterflies. Thank you, she said against his lips. You're welcome. Adrian pulled her closer. Emma, there's something I want to ask you. If it's about dinner tonight, I already told you I can't. I have to finish setting up. It's not about dinner. Adrian took her hands, his expression suddenly serious. It's about us, about our future. Emma's heart started racing. Adrian, let me say this before I lose my nerve. He smiled slightly. I know we said we'd take things slow. I know you wanted time to heal, to find yourself again. And I've tried to be patient. But Emma, I can't wait anymore. He dropped to one knee. Emma's hands flew to her mouth. I love you, Adrian said simply. I love your strength, your courage, your kindness. I love the way you hum when you're concentrating, and how you always order decaf, even though you hate the taste. I love your dreams and your fears and everything in between. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy, making you feel safe, making sure you never doubt for a second how much you're loved. He pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a ring that took Emma's breath away. A sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and perfect. Marry me, Emma. Be my wife, my partner, my everything. Let me be yours. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. 6 months ago, the word wife had filled her with dread. Now, hearing Adrian say it, It sounded like a promise, instead of a prison. Yes, she whispered. Yes? Yes. Emma laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Adrian stood, sliding the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that made her dizzy. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling like fools. I didn't think I'd ever want this again, Emma admitted. Marriage, commitment. But with you, it feels different. It feels right. It is right. Adrian touched her face gently. We're right. Emma looked down at the ring on her finger, then around at her bookstore, then up at the man who'd helped her reclaim her life. We really are, she agreed. Outside, the sun was setting over the small town Emma now called home. Derek was 2 years into a 7-year sentence, all appeals exhausted. Emma's divorce was final. Her bookstore was opening next week, and the man she loved had just asked her to marry him. For the first time in years, maybe ever, Emma felt completely, perfectly free. And as Adrian pulled her close, kissing her again in the middle of her empty bookstore, Emma thought about how strange life was, how she'd run from one man and found another, how what could have been another nightmare had instead been a rescue, how sometimes the right person showed up at exactly the right moment, and sometimes, brave enough, broken enough, strong enough, sometimes you were ready to let them in. I love you, she told Adrian. His smile was worth more than all his billions. I love you too, he said, forever. Emma believed him.